It was just past dawn on June 16, 2025, when a sudden, earth-shaking roar ripped across western Tehran. Inside a reinforced underground hall, a gathering of Iran's top leaders, including President Masoud Pezeshkian, felt the building shudder beneath their feet. In an instant, 6 precision munitions slammed into the facility's entrances and ventilation shafts, plunging the chamber into darkness and sending a plume of dust and debris skyward. As alarms wailed and guards scrambled, Pezeshkian, who had only assumed office months earlier amid hopes of easing regional tensions, found himself clutching his leg, which had been nicked by shrapnel as he slid down a narrow emergency chute to escape the blast. 2 U.S. intelligence sources later confirmed to CBS News that the president did suffer leg injuries that day, though questions remain about whether he was the real target or simply caught in a broader strike against Iran's nuclear infrastructure. CBS News. The Australian. For a nation still reeling from a 12-day exchange of missiles, drones, and airstrikes with Israel, the news that their president had been wounded was a jolt of cold reality. State-run Fast News Agency did not mince words. It labeled the attack as an attempted assassination, accusing Israel of decapitation tactics meant to remove Iran's civilian leadership alongside its military command. Israeli Defense Minister Israel Katz, however, insisted the bombs were aimed squarely at facilities tied to Tehran's nuclear program, not at Pezeshkian himself. New York Post. Wikipedia. Behind closed doors in Washington, White House officials declined to weigh in, opting instead for a studied silence that underscored the United States' delicate balancing act between its 2 Middle Eastern partners. In the hours after the strike, footage began circulating on social media. Handheld videos showing guards hauling injured officials through smoke-choked tunnels, walls cracked by concussive force, and small fires flickering in the gloom. Witnesses in neighboring districts spoke of hearing a low, building thunder, so powerful that windows rattled 3 miles away. Security cameras outside the compound captured a lone aircraft swooping low over Tehran's skyline just before the explosions, its silhouette barely visible against the morning light. Yet despite the dramatic visuals, independent verification was sparse. Western satellites detected an infrared hot spot at the site on June 16, but detailed imagery remained unavailable to the public. The Sun. Inside Iran's corridors of power, the response was swift and unified. Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei condemned the strike as a heinous crime, vowing that those who ordered this attack will face divine and earthly justice. The Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, IRGC, immediately launched an internal probe, detaining suspected informants and combing through months of intelligence logs to discover how enemy operatives had pinpointed the secret meeting location. Officials touted the hall's sophisticated jamming equipment, designed to block external communications, and motion sensors meant to detect unauthorized entries. Yet somehow, the intruders had slipped through. As the probe widened, Iran's spy chiefs were replaced, and dozens of mid-level intelligence officers were briefly detained, fueling whispers of a major internal breach. The Australian. For President Pezeshkian, the physical recovery was rapid but harrowing. Within days of the attack, he returned to public view, walking with a slight limp and occasionally favoring his injured leg. Photographs showed him seated at cabinet meetings, resolute-faced and draped in a navy overcoat. Yet each step he took was a testament to the narrow escape from death. In a rare televised interview with American commentator Tucker Carlson, Pezeshkian recalled the moment the bombs fell. "1 second we were discussing national security. The next, the walls were shaking, and I was thrown into darkness. I grabbed the emergency lever and slid down. I didn't know if I'd walk again, but I knew I had to survive." That interview, broadcast in Farsi with English subtitles, sent ripples through international media. Pezeshkian didn't hesitate to name Israel as the aggressor. "It was not the United States," he asserted, "but Israel that plotted to kill me." He claimed Israeli intelligence had infiltrated Iran's communications and tipped off strike planners to the precise time and location of the meeting. When Carlson asked whether he believed the mission aimed to kill him personally, the president replied, "They did try, yes. But they failed." Israel's strategic calculus in targeting Iran's leadership remains murky. Historically, Israeli strikes focus on military installations and nuclear sites, avoiding direct assassination attempts on civilian heads of state to prevent full-scale retaliation. Experts point out that a strike on Supreme National Security Council members, rather than on Khamenei or the Revolutionary Guard commanders, could signal a shift toward more aggressive decapitation strategy. Danny Citrinovich, a former Israeli intelligence analyst, told The Australian that eliminating Iran's moderate president and his reformist allies might fracture Tehran's political consensus, giving hardliners in the IRGC freer rein to pursue their agenda. The broader context is the brutal, tit-for-tat conflict that erupted in mid-June. On June 13, Israel launched Operation Rising Lion, a massive aerial assault on over 100 Iranian targets, nuclear facilities, missile bases, and key military headquarters, using more than 200 aircraft to drop over 330 munitions. Mossad operatives reportedly sabotaged Iran's air defense radars in advance, giving the Israeli Air Force near-complete control of Iranian airspace. The IRGC responded with a drone and missile barrage that, while heavy, failed to breach Israel's multi-layered defense systems. Over the course of 12 days, more than 150 ballistic missiles and 100 combat drones were exchanged, leaving hundreds dead on both sides and injuring thousands more. Wikipedia. When ceasefire talks began under U.S. mediation on June 25, both Israel and Iran claimed victory. Iran's leadership celebrated a test of national resilience, highlighting the survival of its command structure despite relentless bombing. Israel touted the degradation of Iran's nuclear infrastructure as proof that Tehran's deterrent capability had been weakened. In Washington, the Biden administration hailed the truce as a respite for regional stability. Yet behind the scenes, U.S. officials grappled with the reality that their ally Israel had likely overstepped red lines by striking deep within Iranian territory and injuring a sitting president. As news of Pezeshkian's injury spread, ordinary Iranians reacted with a mix of fear, anger, and pride. Videos on social media showed locals standing outside mosques at dawn, microphones in hand, reciting prayers for the president's recovery. Graffiti reading "Tehran stands strong" appeared overnight on city walls, a defiant statement that life and leadership would endure. Yet whispers of panic lingered. School children asked teachers why the earth shook, office workers hurried home under a sudden curfew, and elderly residents recalled the devastating Iran-Iraq war of the 1980s, when surprise missile strikes left whole neighborhoods in ruin. Beyond Iran, capitals across the Middle East watched the fallout closely. In Ankara, President Erdogan offered to host behind-the-scenes talks between Tehran and Washington, pitching Turkey as a neutral mediator capable of rebuilding trust. In Doha, Emir Tamim bin Hamad Al Thani quietly opened channels to prevent another exchange of missiles over Israeli airspace. Beijing and Moscow, both Iran's arms and fuel suppliers during the conflict, signaled readiness to deepen economic and military ties, painting themselves as reliable partners in contrast to what they characterized as reckless Western interference. Back in Tehran, the attack accelerated a dangerous life-and-death chess match within Iran's own power structures. Hardliners in the IRGC accused President Pezeshkian of failing to protect national security, arguing that his overtures to Europe and the United States had left Iran exposed. Senior commanders who favored harsher retaliation quietly gained influence, pushing for broader strikes on U.S. bases in Qatar and Syria, which Iran partially carried out in the days following the ceasefire but stopped short of full retaliation. Reformists, by contrast, pressed for diplomatic engagement, citing the costs of open war and the crippling effect of renewed international sanctions on Iran's struggling economy. The attack also laid bare the challenges of defending against modern, asymmetric threats. Despite billions spent on bunkers, radars, and electronic countermeasures, Iran's leadership was vulnerable to a single, well-planned aerial raid. Lessons for other nations are clear. No matter how fortress-like a command center may seem, ingenuity and precise intelligence can turn even the most secure site into a target. Experts now warn that any country hosting high-profile meetings in fixed locations must invest in covert communication confirmation methods, randomize meeting sites, and develop rapid evacuation plans that account for aerial strikes. Perhaps most chilling is the prospect of escalation. If Israel did indeed intend to assassinate a sitting president, Tehran may feel justified in targeting Israeli civilians or leadership in return, a cycle that could spiral far beyond the relatively limited conflict of June 2025. Already, Israeli security forces have urged citizens to remain vigilant, warning of possible Iranian missile strikes or sabotage on critical infrastructure at home. Iran's proxies in Lebanon and Yemen, emboldened by Tehran's predicament, could open new fronts against Israeli positions, drawing even more regional actors into the fray. New York Post. For now, though, focus remains on President Pezeshkian's recovery and the hunt for those who betrayed Iran's deepest secrets. The IRGC's internal investigations have led to the arrest of over 700 individuals accused of collaborating with foreign intelligence services. Several senior intelligence officers have been quietly dismissed, and security protocols are being rewritten to seal potential leaks. Tehran has also issued an arrest warrant for foreign accomplices believed to have helped plan the strike, a move likely to strain relations with countries harboring suspected suspects. Site Turn 0 News 9 Turn 1 Search 16. As dusk falls over Tehran, the reinforced gates of the former meeting hall stand silent, scars of the morning's violence visible in the cracked pavement and bent rebar. Inside, cleanup crews work under floodlights to remove debris and repair shattered walls. A banner proclaiming unity and resistance flutters above the entrance, a reminder that despite wounds, both physical and political, Iran's leadership remains determined to stand firm. If you want to keep up with every new development in this fast-moving story, every fresh detail about President Pezeshkian's condition, every intelligence breakthrough, and every shift in regional alliances, make sure to subscribe to our channel and hit the notification bell. We'll bring you on-the-ground reports, expert analysis, and exclusive interviews that cut through the chaos and get straight to the heart of what's happening in Tehran and beyond. Your support helps us stay independent, stay informed, and stay committed to telling the real story behind the headlines.